Please enter your participant or moderator code, followed by the pound key.
I made wood-fired pizza for my aunt's birthday club last night.
Was it a hit?
Joan Christensen, Karen Asplund.
Not Karen
I
Asplund.
was gonna say, unless she was there,
With Joan.
Levon.
she's dead.
I bet it was
Levon.
Levon, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Please enter your participant or moderator code, followed by the pound key.
Rita Lemmy.
Oh, yeah. Rita still? I thought she.
Please say your name, followed by the pound key.
Oh,
She looked good.
You are the first participant in the conference.
She's still vertical.
yeah, I know, well, see, now you had one alive and I had one dead, so we're even, right?
Yeah. But now they were gonna just order pizza to bake, and it's like, my mom used to be in that birthday club, and I thought, man, I'll just do it. Lisa and I
But
went.
they love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. None of them had had margarita pizza before.
Oh,
Margarita
Really?
pizza? I've never even heard of it.
Oh, it's just a simple
It's the
vegetable
basic.
only. It's just basil and tomatoes and
mozzarella.
mozzarella. That's
Oh,
all
really?
You
it
know
is.
why it's called margarita pizza?
Yeah, like,
Because the Queen of Spain her name was Margarita, and the Spanish flag is green, white, and red,
yeah.
and that's the only colors that are on that pizza.
Oh, really?
That's why it's called that, supposedly.
I'll have to pass that on.
I
Thank you
love
for
that.
Yes, no, there.
I like
Because
that.
they thought it's something to do with alcohol, and they got them kind of excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, they thought it was well boozed up for them, huh?
I learned it when we were in Italy.
I saw Levon yesterday, her and Arnie were
Okay.
coming out of somewhere in Buffalo.
Everybody's getting older, aren't they?
Well, you know, and I was thinking maybe it was the clinic, but I can't remember if that was where it was. It seems like they were further north.
Arnie's had a lot of health issues, but he's still hanging in there.
Yeah,
How's Dean Belvance doing?
you know, I have not heard.
Is there
It must not have
something?
been as bad.
So he died
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah, it was a bad one.
What?
Is that up close to the Belvance ranch then?
No. He
What
was-
happened?
Dean was turning into Danny Hasbrook's place, I think is what the report said anyway online. He just turned into, in front of this older couple from Monteville, Minnesota or whatever.
So
Who was hurt?
which road is 20th?
The man, the elderly man was killed. The wife was taken in the first ambulance, Buffalo ambulance, and an ambulance had to come from Fort City and transport the woman.
And then how's
Or no, Dean was taken
Beach.
by our ambulance, and then
Working
Dean was
outside.
taken by the post
Building
ambulance,
attachments.
because he wasn't as bad.
I've been cooped
He was in
up
a three-quarter
for
ton
6
Texas.
months working at a house
They
in
were
town.
out.
Inside.
They were in a Fort
No,
Pew.
finally I'm
in the
outside. Yeah.
hospital? Or is he?
I have no
Big,
idea.
yeah.
Maybe, do you know if Dean Ballvance, is he still in the hospital? Have you heard anything?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shoot. That's too bad.
So is that a gravel road then?
No, R20 Blacktop.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Julie Swenson, I think, wants us to table her. She's not ready for the 9 o'clock.
Table it for
Till
later.
next week, or
Oh,
for
next
later. Oh, I'm not sure when for sure,
I
sorry.
think next week.
That's what I think she said too, but
Jail inspection this week went really well.
Good. Are we getting all our locks adjusted and working well?
Well, we're not hot or anything, right?
Yeah, I think we are already, yes.
All right.
As far as we know.
well, it's 9 o'clock. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice for all.
Consider for approval minutes and agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jensvold, seconded by Derby to approve the minutes and agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Number 2 is 9 a.m. Julie Swenson, treasurer, to discuss with possible action the annual report, and she has asked to be put on for next week. And we'll go to number 3, consider for approval engagement agreement with Jason Minsky, Powers, and Cooney PC.
So this is for the purpose of the vote.
Yes. Where did I put it? Let me grab that.
So do you remember when do you have grandchildren? You do have grandchildren, don't you?
Step-grandchildren,
That's right, that's right. But you have
one on the way.
one on the way, and I got to play with Leo last night. What a busy little boy. Anyway, you forget how tight.
So you're looking forward to that stage.
Yeah,
Better start getting in shape.
I know. Actually, his other grandma was chasing after him, and she's like, "This is the workout."
Morning, AJ.
Morning.
Morning.
We've been waiting for you.
I know. I just had to move the seats apart, so I'm not a seat cushion again.
Do what you need to do.
Running temperatures of 100 and Gesundheit after that and everything else.
All right.
What? Are you kidding?
I was so lethargic on Thursday that Carl caught me asleep in the office. And then Mark did. And then Angela did. And it's like, okay, so what's going on? So I went home. 100 in Gesundheit. It was a short little thing. It wasn't anything major. No vomiting, no nothing. Even the dog didn't want to get close to me. His tongue would come swaggering out. He'd start panting, and he'd move about 5 feet away from me because, Dad, you're too warm.
So this is an engagement agreement
Yeah,
that we're
right here.
looking at? Okay.
So I tried to get a hold of Jason to be on the agenda today. I put him on in hopes that I could get a hold of him, but he was on vacation. So I really think that what I have here, he had sent to me ahead of time. And I think this is what needs to be on the agenda for next week. It needs to be amended because of whatever he committee decides. But this is what needs to be on the agenda to be approved. Needs to go to the paper by the 31st in order to meet the 30 days. And needs to be submitted to the auditor's office by the 31st in order to meet the election deadlines. And
Okay, explain our deadlines. You said the 30 days for what?
so it needs to be in the paper 60 days.
60 days
Yep. But that means it needs to be to the paper
by the 31st.
basically by the 31st in order to be in the paper the next week.
And we can maybe, 31st, make sure the paper knows it's coming,
Mm-hmm.
so they have a spot for it.
Yep.
Okay, so on the 30th, we'll be finalizing what's gonna be on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something else we do in September then? Or is that the last?
I mean, basically, it has to be to the auditor's office by the 31st, whatever you want on the ballot. So,
Yeah, I think I always had it in my head September 6th or something, and it was actually earlier than that. That's when it had to be published.
it has to be published.
So we have to pass, we have to accept the recommendation by the council before that.
To get it to
in
the paper by then.
So if we do that on the 30th here, then we'll be okay.
That means that whatever you do on the 25th basically needs to be,
Accepted
Ready?
on the 30th.
You gotta
if we're
be-
gonna move forward.
We have
Yeah.
to be ready to say that's A-okay. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the engagement agreement for Jason Comiskey from Ehlers and Cooney.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Derby and seconded by Jensvold to approve the engagement agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed, and then do we just need this signed and dated, and is it just me?
and then you did see, I sent out to the whole EMS committee from Kelsey saying that it has to be the amount and the levy amount.
You can only put on the amount on the ballot that at that time
Yep.
is needed.
Yep.
Can't build in the future.
Right.
What's the second date? There, there's an asterisk on it.
I think it's the same thing.
Okay, so we've got that done. Now we need to discuss what needs to be done for next week, which we sort of did. Is there any additional things, as long as we know that it's eminent and has a time frame? Everyone here will be at the meeting on Thursday? Not you. So, but we've got, Daisy is covering your notes, she said, so.
I guess I was encouraged to hear that the cities were on board. If we need to increase it, maybe they step up and do their parts. Hopefully we'll know more this week on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know that we need it the first year, but maybe going forward,
On those,
that give them maybe a
4%.
couple of years to get that figured out.
we could cover the 4%.
What I don't understand is, why did they get to say 4% when nobody else gets to say, like, we are guaranteed a 4% raise every year?
Yeah.
Nobody else gets
That
to
didn't say.
guarantee
I
a
didn't.
4% raise every year.
That
You look
didn't,
at the
That doesn't make
history of
sense.
raises and it's, no, it's not been that.
but that's also not something that's written in stone in that.
I mean, if you get a 2-year, depression or recession, you're not gonna have necessarily the need for that.
Well, the only time we've gotten above the cost of living was when there was inequities in, I mean, to me, it should be written in there, not 4%, it should be cost of living or less.
But that's beyond what we have to worry about here right now.
Mm-hmm. As long as we have that discussion on Thursday. Okay, Scott. Hey, Scott, we're ready for you. Thanks. I don't think I've ever taken any job before that guaranteed my 4% raises over the next 15 years.
40 years of doing this. Never. I've had contract reductions
Happens, doesn't it?
because you don't have enough clients out there.
Morning.
Morning.
Scott's on his way up here.
Alright.
It was your day to keep track of them.
It was my turn to keep, yeah, today is the day.
Oh, thank goodness.
How's AJ doing? Too early to tell?
ask.
You had to ask.
Okay. Not on the agenda. Okay,
Hotel. Can you bring me a clipboard?
Yes.
I'm okay, I guess. I don't know. When we get to bed, I'll let you know.
It takes it out of you, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am. It does. All the things that are going on. Yes.
Morning, Scott.
Alright.
Got for us.
Well, project update, so D11, W1 up by Asmus Farm Supply, the box got set last week. They're backfilling right now, and if everything goes well and they can get dirt hauled, they might have it open as early as today, or tomorrow. Once they get that one done, they'll move over to G16N1, which is a mile west of R50, kind of northeast of Thompson. And that box culvert's not available yet, so we'll get the bridge out, we'll get everything ready, and might have to take a couple days off and do some odd jobs.
That it's in route at some point.
Yeah, very soon. It'll be poured and put on the truck as soon as it's ready, and then we'll just line up the trucking and the crane at that time and get it put in the hole. So we just want to be ready for it when it comes, so we'll get the bridge out and bank shaped and everything so we can close the river and close the creek and get the bottom set and get rocks in as soon as we can. So we got a couple work orders that we can fill our time with. We got plenty of work orders to fill our time with, I should say, but so we'll kind of get it, anything that's high priority knocked off. We have a couple days. Heartland was in to do the milling work north of Lake Mills. So they milled the first 2 miles and then did the tie-in points, transitions into the old pavement, into the bridge, that kind of thing. So that's all done. We're expecting the cold in place recycling train to be here on Monday. And that's a one-lane operation too, just like the milling was, so people will be able to get around there with flaggers or a pilot car. They'll get a couple miles a day, 2 to 3 miles a day, I think, a lane mile. And hopefully make a long week of it next week and be done. So that's the process where they mill up 4 inches, mix it with some new asphalt, and pave it right back down all in one train.
Just got a newsletter from Federal Highway on that process. They had a seminar on it last Thursday. I think trying to figure out if there was anything that was different there that we were doing. Seemed like it was the same process.
Yeah, it's a pretty forgiving process. It's kind of, you know, they're just two ingredients, right? You got existing road and new oil, and they dial it up or down depending on how they like the product. And it takes some shoulder rock in there. It just kind of mixes all together what you got, and you get really a nice product out of it. And you take all the cracks that are out there and go down 4 inches and get rid of them. And it's a
So then I'll need edge roadstone along the whole thing when it gets done, all new.
Yep. Once they get, well, after the cold in place recycling is done, then they'll come in with the new paving and put 3 inches down, and the side of the pavements will have a little bit of a slope. So once they're all done paving, then they'll come in and put new shoulder rock on. It'll be 3-4 inches of new shoulder rock, 5-6 feet wide or whatever it is. Yeah. So we'll be paving in September, it looks like, middle of September. That'll be the little bit more intrusive part of the project where we'll have to, you know, work around farmers and stuff if they're in the fields. But it should be fine.
So when it does close both sides of the road, do you go and talk to the people who live on that road? How do you do that?
Well, the timing's so short. You know, once we go by the person's place, it's probably a matter of an hour or so before it's been rolled and you can get a car on it. You don't really want luggy tractor tires or anything like that right away. But car tires, you know, you can pretty much drive on it. So if we track down everybody and call them, including farmers and stuff, it'd be probably more work than it's worth. If a farmer knows they're going to take a field out and they see us working nearby,
Probably talk
I think
to
they'll
you.
call us, yeah, and usually work around them. We got wide enough shoulder where I think if there's an emergency, we can always get there in an emergency, but to stay off the mat and get to a residence quickly, I think there's probably room on the shoulder for a car to be able to get there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we should be able to complete the project without too much headache for anybody out there.
All right. Anything else, Scott?
I was going to talk to you about my Forest City shop building, but I think I can wait until the ARPA committee meeting. You have a preference?
You guys care?
I mean, it's relevant to secondary roads regardless of if it's relevant to ARPA, probably. I'll just go through it if we
We've
get.
got 10 minutes if you,
Okay. So just so, I guess to share the information with everybody, not just you guys, I'll go through the email that I sent you yesterday. We have a shop building here in Forest City. Well, our property has two shops. One that was built in 1999 and then one that was built in 1945, according to a little bit of research that I've done. I can't prove that, but it was somewhere around there. We got salt sheds and we got a garage that houses our engineer's office pickups, the assessor's pickup. And so the 1945 shop is having some issues that are kind of a long time coming, but it's all coming together into a whole lot of maintenance funds to take care of a building that's not really serving our needs very well at this point. It's a steel structure that has steel roofing. If you've seen the building, it has kind of a round arch top to it. The steel is leaking and corroded. They did a spray-on coating 20 years ago to try and buy some more time, and that's just, at the end of its life. So it's at a point where we need to most likely replace the roof, if nothing else. We have interior walls that have these transite panels that contain asbestos. We did some testing on it here recently, and it's more or less stable in its, form right now. But our crane rubs on the roof or rubs on the ceiling when it goes around, and so some of those particulates do end up in the air. The crane is also, I assume, original to the building. It has bare wire contact points, so the trolley that slides on the beam is kind of it's the way to keep power to the trolley, is it slides on this bare wire, and it's really dangerous. Something we'd like to get replaced. We looked at modifying the crane so it didn't rub on the ceiling and replacing the trolley and hoist, and that was going to be about $26,000, and so we think we can probably replace the crane for less than that. The structure is steel truss. It's got some steel members in there that are permanently warped from a fire that was in there at some point. I haven't been able to locate the date of the fire, but you can see up in the rafters that there was wood parts that are burned, and it must have been a pretty nasty fire, is what I'm guessing. So we have some structural integrity issues. Some of the support beams have been mutilated. They've been, torched out pieces to make the door fit or something. It's hard to tell why they were cut, but we don't have, under it all, we don't have a structurally sound structure that we could maybe rebuild or gut the building, which is what I looked into before. The electrical system is, a lot of it is very old, including the crane and electrical parts. We got some stray voltage in the building that makes it kind of dangerous to work on the electrical system. And then our overhead doors are really too narrow. They have just inches on the sides of the V-plows when we go in and out, which makes it just impractical to be, going in and out. They just get hit sometimes, and it's just part of it. And like many of the shops, our air quality is poor at times. We run the trucks in the shop, to warm them up, and none of our shops have any clean air exchange, and that's just something I'd like to look into. So we started to scope out these repairs. We got, again, the crane modifications for $26,000. I know that we bought the new crane in Lake Mills when we built that one for about $10,000 plus the footing and electrical and all the corresponding charges. So I would think we could replace a crane for that $26,000 cost. We got asbestos in the wall panels, like I said. I think to get rid of that all would be about $60,000. I think it would be a lot less if we were demolishing the building and didn't have to worry about, suspending the garage doors and the heating system and everything and working neatly around that and draping the stuff we're trying to say, whatever, if we could just, drop it all in a pile and haul it out, I'm sure it would be cheaper. If we remove the ceiling, then we need new ceiling that's got blown-in insulation, so we either need to replace that or insulate the gables and the ceiling with spray insulation or something like that. Get another $60,000. Our electrical service, I think basically we need to rewire the building from the service in, and that's the way to update the wiring in there, about maybe $30,000. We'd like to put in larger doors. It's not really practical for this building, just because you'd have to rework some of the structure, and the structure's already been tampered with. So we're kind of stuck with those in this current building. All those repair items total about $180,000. And before we put that kind of money into an old building that is, has structural issues and doesn't meet the needs of our, larger, newer equipment, we wanted to estimate what a new building would cost, just to kind of pluck that one out of the ground and put a new one in the same size. We think it'll be around $600,000. We got a verbal off-the-wall estimate from Larson's for $450,000. This is before an engineer's looked at it or an architect has looked at it at all. So I think $600,000 is kind of a good target number for a 60 by 80 Butler steel building with new floors and footings, new electrical, heating, plumbing, and we also got a little bit of architectural fees to think about, and we also have to get a new crane in there, and hard to say what else when we're replacing the building, but a few other things. So this is kind of a long time coming, even though I'm really just sharing it with you pretty here recently. Our facilities haven't had any notable updates since 2003 when our Lake Mill shop was built. So we got this one and the Thompson Uptown shop that are old and in need of replacement. As a rule of thumb, if we have 5 shops and we want to have a 100-year-old building all the time, we got to replace one every 20 years. So it's been 20 years since our last replacement. So I think we're due to invest in our facilities substantially.
Is the location ideal?
Not ideal. We have,
But it's near yourself.
right, all the facilities are together. If you move the facility, you'd have to, rebuild a entire shop, basically 8-bay shop with salt storage facilities by the land and do site work, septic and well work. We have done a lot of thinking about that and how our, routes work coming out of the shop. Right now we have one that goes through town and out west, and one that goes through town and out east. And no matter where you put the shop, you always end up with this kind of awkward, wasted time driving through town.
I think we'll probably have to, we're at 9:30 now, so
Okay.
we'll continue it afterwards.
Okay. So short answer is yes, we've looked at that. It could be done. I don't think it's the best option.
That would cost, right?
So probably 3 or 4. Yeah. I mean, we could sell the old one and get some money again too. But
Okay, we're at 9:30, public hearing for master matrix for Iowa Cage Free LLP.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Derby, seconded by Jenswold to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good morning.
Good morning, Craig Rolls. I'm surprised to be back here, maybe as much as you are. The reason that we're here today is to go into the public hearing process for the second phase. And when we were here the first time, I think I might have talked about how we had broken the construction project into 3 phases. And we didn't know the exact timing of when each phase would occur. Subsequent to that previous permit hearing, our customer came to us and said, no, we think we're ready to go with some of that next phase. If I'd have known that, we would have adjusted the first phase and we wouldn't be here today. But our original plan was to put in 6 buildings, and now we're gonna start with a couple more into the next, over onto the east side. So we're continuing the process that we've started. So there isn't any change other than to add into the next phase, add 2 buildings. I would also like to introduce Josh Workentine. He's here with me today. Turned 65 here a couple weeks ago, and I'm starting to go into a transition phase in my life. Josh Workentine will be the lead project coordinator on this project moving forward, and would be a good contact for you, Scott. I'd like you and Scott to get together if you could and make sure that you guys have exchanged contact information. So we're doing that. My question for everyone here is, how are we doing so far? Everything okay from your perspective with what we've done so far?
I haven't heard any complaints or anything. What, the facility as a whole, what is operational right now?
So the buildings that are up to the north, those are buildings that Rembrandt had converted to cage-free previously, and we continue to operate those.
2 of them, or?
There's 2 on each side, 4 total. Just to give you a perspective, I think each of those houses about 200,000 birds. And those buildings, we're kind of having to work our way around the fact that we're tearing out hallways and doing all kinds of things. So eggs have to go from the left side to the right side, and then later on, the eggs have to go from the right side to the left side. That's our problem to deal with. But there's not a lot of production. I mean, in the scheme of things, for a facility that was originally designed for 6 million birds, there's only 800,000 out there right now. But our intent is to get that thing back to 6 million cage-free eventually. As I said in the first hearing, we don't know exactly how that demand is going to occur, but we're going to respond to our customers' needs and expectations when it comes. And what we're doing is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm really proud of what we're doing right now. So be happy to take you. And anytime we get things up and going and you want to see something, be happy to take you through.
I've had a lot of questions on how that works with the ledger process.
Oh,
Do you train the birds?
Yeah, you have to train them as pullets, and there's still some training that goes on, but it's really, what I'm so proud of is the fact that we have figured out how to marry the needs of the birds and just the natural inclination of the birds with the equipment. And so it's taken mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, construction and civil engineers to design buildings that are big enough to kind of make it work. And then you have to have the equipment that's inside that's designed to mimic or understand what the needs of the birds are within the system, so that the feed and the water and the nest boxes and the perches where they go to sleep at night, all that has to be figured out. And we went through, probably 5 different iterations of equipment that goes on the inside at different locations around Iowa before we got to where we're at today. And we're going to stay where we're at today. The Germans figured it out. The Germans have got a really, really nice system. And so all those containers that are coming across the water, there are thousands of containers that are coming into that location across the pond. They go to Norfolk, Virginia, they put them on a rail, they run them into Minneapolis or Chicago, and then on a truck. And it's a real process to bring that stuff in, and a challenge right now, but we're making it happen. And again, if you want to go through and you want to go see it after we get it up, you'd be more than welcome.
I'd like to see it. That'd be good.
We will make that happen.
Well, you do realize there is an intermodal terminal over at Manly. Iowa Northern Railroad connects with others.
Sure. We're not in charge of logistics.
Yeah.
We just write the checks.
That's where all those wind turbines you see going by.
Oh, sure.
Going into. And then
Yeah.
But they're a short line railroad. that's my advertisement for the
Forest County appreciates it.
Was there anything else? Did you have any questions?
Do
Or
we have any comments
do
from
we
the
have any
public at that
comments?
time?
No.
Anyone on the phone today?
Any comments?
Any comments?
The roads have been maintained properly.
Haven't heard any issues. I know our superintendent's been in touch with the maintainer operator out there. I think that's all going fine.
Good. Good. Yeah, make sure, Scott, you guys get together here.
Well, hearing no comments from the public, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion by Derby, seconded by Jensvold to close the public hearing for Master Matrix of Iowa Cage Free LLP. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Motion passed. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the master matrix for Iowa Cage Free LLP for phase 2.
I'll second it.
Motion by Derby, seconded by Jensvold to approve the Master Matrix.
Public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Good. Exciting
Thank
to see
you.
that happen.
Thank you.
That's good to see it's getting moved up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
It's good to hear that it's moving
Oh.
up faster than you anticipated.
It is, and, you know, Josh is working on the design for a grading plant there as well, so it's gonna be a really, if we get this all to come together, it will be the coolest farm in the nation, as far as I'm
I
concerned.
think for our farmers, it'll help to get that feed mill, up to capacity.
It's a bushel of corn per bird per year.
Oh.
Think about that. It's a bushel of corn per bird per year per bird per year, and it's about 18 pounds of soybean meal per bird per year. So you don't think about one little chicken as, but when you put them all together, it's a boatload
What
of
was
meat.
the soybean mill, he said?
18 pounds,
Just 6 million bushels of corn.
6 million bushels of corn a year, that when you get back to capacity. That's real demand, where I come from.
Well, that changes your spread on the market. I mean,
Yeah.
back when I was farming 20-some years ago, it was the other way around, where we couldn't market anything local. There was no ethanol plants, there was no feed mills. Right
Then we had to
before-
rely on your railroad over there in Manly, right?
We were, back in the 70s, we were hauling to Winona,
Yeah, no, it's value added market, that's for sure.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay,
Back to Scott, any?
do you
Finish that up.
want to take a few more minutes, Scott?
Sure. Well, I guess at this point, I'll take questions on that building. You guys want to talk more about it?
I had the same question that Terry brought
Thank
up.
you, guys.
Don't
Thank you.
remodel, build new.
That
Can I
building-
give you just one piece of advice? Don't try to fix an old building. We tried that once. Didn't work out very well.
Especially this
Yeah,
one.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, just don't build it.
Thanks for the plug.
There you go.
Depends on whose money you're spending, I guess.
Yeah, so you want to know more about if we,
There's 2 options.
We could have moved one of their buildings in.
move in a facility on a trailer, yeah, that's,
So that was when, as you were speaking, and the thoughts I had too was, is there actually a better place? Is this land more valuable?
I imagine
Or
if we
something else.
sell this one to relocate, you have to deal with the asbestos before we sell
not
it.
necessarily.
Identify it.
Which is basically done. We haven't done a survey of the entire building, just the panels themselves, but, a lot of people have asbestos in their buildings that's stable and encapsulated. Maybe encapsulated is not the right word, but it's not, dust in the air, it's in the material that's solid.
I've had an inspection done by DNR, and They say as long as you don't disturb it, you're fine.
Right.
As long as it's not
Right, our
bothering.
main concern was just that it gets touched and binged and rubbed on, so, you know, we haven't done any air quality testing in there, but, and I'm not terribly concerned that it's the amount that would, I don't know the answer.
What type of material is it that's asbestos?
They called it, the guy called it a transite panel. It's kind of like 1/4 inch thick board that's pretty rigid, like, I don't know, it's kind of almost cement board-like.
Like the siding, the asbestos siding
I
almost.
imagine it's very brittle too.
Yeah, it's pretty brittle, you know, we got some holes in the walls and it's,
The old house that I own in Buffalo, it's got this slate asbestos siding.
yeah.
There's a lot of those around.
Yeah,
Stuff is indestructible though, unless you break it. I mean, if you bump a pedal, it'll break.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if we'd have to deal with it, as long as it was identified, you know, we know it's there, and we're not gonna try to hide that or anything, but, like I said, we looked at our routes, I think was the primary thing to dictate where our shop's located, and there isn't a better location from that standpoint. I mean, I think if we were out on the highway, like by the sheriff's office, I mean, we could probably get to our routes a little quicker, with a little less neighborhood travel type thing, but
how
not,
big is that building?
how big
What
is
size is the building?
Replacement building?
the replacement building? Well, the current building that we'd like to replace is 60 by 80, and that's a little more than half of the size, if you don't include the garage. You know, there's 2 buildings, the lower one's 4 bays, the upper one's 4 bays, so basically 8 bays.
You were talking about the doors being a little narrow, or within a 60 by 80 building, the 8-foot wood. Are you able to put the right size doors in them?
Yeah, I mean, we have 6 feet or something between a lot of the doors. It's just, you know, where the beams are, there's not, and you probably have to do some restructural work to make it work, you know, anytime you have
There's
doors.
one place, the walk door in between 2 of the doors.
Right.
If that was moved to the side, then maybe you could reconfigure a little better, or
What he was telling us is to change the size of the doors, you have to, you know, get up into the header space, right? And make sure that you have structure first and then build doors in there. And then to modify the building structurally that's already warped and mutilated, pretty hard to do.
you'd be fighting it.
Right, and you'll have to, I think you'd have trouble finding anybody who's interested in working on that because, you know, they get nervous that they're working on something that's not sound. I think most of the work in that building in the last 50 years has probably been our own crew, you know, knowing what we have and doing the best with it. You also see some of these price tags on shops Cerro Gordo and Hancock County have with their new sites. Pretty scary. It's, you know, new development, new site, new grading, well, sewer, new facility, you know, everything goes with it. So it seems a little bit out of reach for us knowing we have this building and another one to try and replace probably the next.
If we were to do a new site, that you think your group could do the site development?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for that. They did the site work in Lake Mills when that come about.
That's what the layout is to start with.
Yeah, let's do a little bit of research into see how the public bidding laws allow for that. I would think it'd be fine. We can do dirt work, we have dozers and stuff like that, but, you know, that takes time from bridge work in the summer, you know. We have to decide in the summer whether we're gonna do bridges or
Be
whether,
involved in it too.
it could be.
What's the valuation of the property down here?
I don't know anything about it.
I don't know the answer to that. There'd be an assessed value that would tell
I think
something.
for when it's, we don't, oh, there it is. Evaluation,
We have a value too in our insurance rates. I wanna say is somewhere around 400 to 500,000.
The assessed valuation is probably only 194.
For just that one parcel, that one piece?
Well, that includes the two buildings that are attached to each other.
Okay, but not the,
There's building one, building two, yeah, two
How
buildings.
many square feet do you have?
60 by 80 and
All that, okay.
50 by 70, maybe, the other one.
The newer building has doors that are big enough and stuff.
They're bigger, yeah, I think we put bigger doors yet if we could do
You
it
did
over.
it again.
You know, those are already 23 years old, you know. The new graders have bigger V-plows than the older ones. I don't know if we have any smaller ones yet. Seems like this, everything gets bigger and bigger, especially when you think about every 20 years.
So that there's on that parcel, there's a building to the south that you put your vehicles in, or what's that?
So there's a 4-stall garage, yep, that they built at similar time, I think, as the 99 shop, and that has Eric's truck, my truck, Sue's truck from the
I
assessor's
don't
office.
see that on this parcel.
Hmm.
That shows it,
I
but
think it's part of the same parcel.
it just says building one, building two.
Yeah, it's just a cold garage, so a lot of value to us, but it, you know, it isn't like it's a heated shop.
Still got value though.
Yeah, definitely.
I wish that was on my place.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's probably at least 40,000 value there.
Yeah, I'd say at least that. So, you know, that's the thing too, if our shop was somewhere else, then would we keep our pickups, you know, somewhere further away? We could, be less convenient, but
They
Good.
share it with the assessor too.
yeah, so,
And
I mean,
the other
again,
building
they could have.
The other building on the next parcel, the maintenance uses that, right?
Right, that's a different parcel.
But it might be one of those things, maybe we could,
Maintenance and emergency management share that building.
yeah, emergency management. I'm just trying to take out if we do sell the two buildings connected, parcel that other one with the emergency management one or something, having access to it. Then you keep your vehicles there, that's way down. It does show it on the map, so. Yeah, the one is 50 by 80 to the east, and then the other one's 30 by 50 garage. And they say the old one is 60 by 82. I don't know if that's what the overhang is.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you're measuring to.
So I would say we could possibly sell the whole thing, you know, for at least the 200,000, if not more.
Yeah, I think you'd be able to get that out of it, yeah.
that's where my head was going, just like, what's it worth, and, you know, do you wanna build on the same spot, is there a better spot, and it's right next to city property.
Electric plant, yeah.
So you said
City
one route
interested in
goes-
it?
One route that goes west, another
Yeah.
one goes to Mount Valley, kind of.
I'll get to the Pilot Knob roads, that's the awkward part of our plow route, that doesn't connect to anything. So,
And the other one goes out.
gets A44 and A42. And so, you know, that one could be really anywhere on north on 69 and start on A44, for instance. But that puts Jeff, who does Mount Valley, you know, 3 or 4 miles away from the beginning of his route. Andy has the deadhead from the other side of Pilot Knob all the way out to R74. That route's just
What kind of equipment is that one? Is that a road grader that does?
no truck, hard surface are all trucks. So he's already got, you know, he deadheads out to the city limits and then picks up on Highway 9 and drives the 3 miles or whatever it is, 3.5 to R74. It takes a long time to, you know, you hate to drive without the plow down. It's just a unnecessary driving. So that's the tricky route to try and manage, and we thought of trying to pair it with other parts of routes and redoing routes, and we drew up all kinds of things trying to figure out how to make that work. And it's not convenient because there's segments that aren't ours. If we had Highway 9 and plowed that one, it might be different, 69 or whatever. Because we thought, anywhere north on 69, there's open farm field, there's land, conservation land, none of that's probably available, but a couple of acreages, at least one that's vacant. I don't know, there's maybe some ideas for property we could try and acquire. None of them perfectly fit the routes, neither does the current facility. So that's like the problem I wanted to solve, and I don't think we can.
But logistically, west of town is not as good as east of town or north of town.
West of town.
Either way, some routes gotta drive through town.
But how many though? There's probably more that go
Yeah,
that
right now
way.
we're kind of split it in half. If we were kind of north of town a little bit, then at least like Jeff's route would be all on highway, and then golf course road, a little bit, barely any better than now down J Street, golf course road, about the same. For Doug, he goes all the way down O Street. That's a pretty clunky route to get to the start. So his would be better if we were starting on A44 instead of A42 maybe. But the further north you go, the worse it is for Mount Valley route.
Where most of the guys live, as far as getting to them during the winter.
Yeah, Jeff lives in town and Doug's south of town on the highway.
I'm guessing if we were 1 mile north of town and a little bit east, it'd be probably a business up there would appreciate really good service early.
Yeah, radio station property.
We would entertain that. We've had people stranded for 3 days inside the station.
One time.
No, there was Mitch, there was me, Mark was there for 2 days. Carl was parked in there for 2 days.
Location of our shop won't affect that. We'll try our best.
There's a shop right next to it, then you guys have to plow them out
Yeah.
and get out of there, so.
What we're going to do, and I'm not gonna tell Scott this, but what we're gonna do is we bought 2 large trucks from Leland along with some scoops, and we're gonna take the snow, we're gonna put it in the back of these trucks, drive it down to the shed, pour it right there on the gate so that they can't get in, and then they'll see what it's like.
Good neighbor policy.
I always say return the favor whenever you can.
Make interesting news, wouldn't it?
Oh, the great. We'd have pictures too.
You're always making history.
So
I
what
just
kind of
want you to know that Gary Anderson is going to call in at 10 o'clock to discuss the public health building.
at 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
I have
saying
a
what?
quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
So what kind of what's an ideal time frame on this? Or, do you have some type of a thought process there?
Well, the main thing is we decide what we're gonna do, so we know how to take care of that building in the meantime. It's like last year, we replaced the floor drains because they were in terrible shape and unsafe, and we just had to get it done. It cost about $10,000, so you don't wanna do those things every year knowing you're not gonna keep the property or it's gonna be rebuilt or something, so then, if we knew, let's say it was being rebuilt this year, we wouldn't have done that last year. We would have just,
That also increases the resale value. Of the building.
yeah, maybe, that's like, when you re-roof your house, you hope it brings extra value, but most likely it just brings the value it should instead of more. Yeah, some, maybe. Like, everybody's gonna know, no matter what we do to it, it's still that old building that we didn't want.
And where are you anticipating funds for this then?
Well, I think that we have grown our fund balance enough to be able to budget for it in future years. Or I know we have some unappropriated ARPA funds, and I'd like to entertain that.
At a different committee meeting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, if we're talking about a $600,000 budget, that's something we can do and get done and budget for. If it's 2.5 million or something for a brand new site, and I don't know if that's the right number, 1.5, I have no idea. But, you know, then we really would have to strategize together, possibly borrow money. Or, you know, levy well and budget conservative and try to just save up incrementally until we get there. That's really what I've been trying to do kind of behind the scenes for the last 5 years, knowing that we have major construction, we have major facility projects on the horizon, and we don't have them quite scoped out perfectly. So we've grown our fund balance for that reason. But I think if we had the funds, we could get a building built by late next year or the following. I mean, I think we could get it moving that quickly.
In the next budget.
Yeah, and if we needed to get, you know, architectural and design and all that bid, we could find money for that in the budget. So,
Okay,
ideal schedule, right away.
yesterday.
Do you plan on, regardless, trying to seal the roof up a little more coating?
They said that Larson said they could just do time and material, basically cutting out pieces of steel and gluing them on and painting some sort of sealant over the top. So we could do that.
So you have to replace panels to be able to do that?
Basically, he said you just glue them over top. Some of the spots, I mean, I don't know where it'd be pretty tough to take any pieces off. So you'd basically just be kind of marrying them up to the ribbing, setting them over top with some like mastic and a new steel piece, and then sealing the edges and then kind of painting a coating over the outside. That's the impression I got. It's like, you know how corrosion works. It's like on your vehicle. You're like, oh, I got a little rust spot. And then you look underneath and the entire thing's disgusting because it's, you know, roached out.
Kind of like the foundation of the building.
Yeah, you got it. Like you think you're going to replace one block and then a couple $1 million later, you know, you got
Is
a
this
solid
something you
foundation
can see
later.
from the ground, or do you have to?
I'd say you'd have to get on top of the roof. I know Ethan and Jeff went up there the other day to kind of get a better handle on what it looks like. He took some pictures. They're not that,
Gary Anderson.
not,
Has joined.
wish he would have taken more, but I can send you the pictures he sent me to show you kind of what it's doing. It's like, you know, you can only coat, if the rust is perforating the steel, it's a little bit too late to coat it. You just need to do some cobbled repairs, in which we can do. There's nothing wrong with that, because whoever replaces the roof, if that's what they do, would need to strip it all off and start over. So whatever we do to this steel is
Sure.
immaterial at that point.
And one more thing, when is the next ARPA meeting?
Today,
It's on
It's
the
today?
agenda here.
Number 12.
Oh, it is. So you're
Timely
sitting there,
presentation, right?
what a stinker.
I wasn't quite ready, but I'm sneaking it in here, even though I don't have a quote for the building, because of this reason, just because I knew it was gonna be discussed today.
I didn't read all the way to 12. All right, well, it's 10 o'clock and we have Gary on the line. Is that you, Gary, that we heard?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yep, yes it is.
Gary, I asked you to be on the call just so you can help us and walk through maybe some next steps with the public health building and what we need to do next.
Sure. Well, if, you know, the soils report Well, a surprise component, if you recall looking at it, was at the northwest corner. They had what's called auger refusal at 6 foot down, which basically, the way it sounds, there's some sort of concrete structure of some type, which could be a basement floor slab or something. It's hard to say. Now, 6 feet down, I was kind of looking through that. They use the building, the telecommunication building, their floor line as a benchmark, and I don't know how that relates to your building, you know, where those two are. But in essence, the way it sounds from that telecommunications building, that is 11 feet down where they had this auger refusal. And so in order for us to really get a good feeling as to what all of these elevations are, to think about how much soil has to be removed, we do need to get a survey identifying what the public health building floor line is versus the telecommunications, get all of our topography done, utilities, things like that, in order so we can kind of come up with a better plan as to how much we have to dig out. Now, if you have a desire just to find somebody with a backhoe and dig, you know, just to establish how big it is, that's perfectly fine too. But in essence, we do need to get a survey to get that going. And then if you're ready with this site, you know, ready to move forward with it overall, then I just need to get a contract for you organized, and then we do need to talk about the timeline. You know, what your thoughts are for that. And then really once we have the contract and the timeline, then we really do need to get digging into it. Have a meeting and discuss what your total program is. You started a good list of things, but then we just need to decide what really is going into the project, existing building work, for instance, versus this new.
Okay. So you talked about V&K. Is that something you guys are interested in? Just letting Gary work with the engineer that he's used to working with, or?
I guess I'd be okay with that.
No problem.
Okay.
I mean, what I can do is have Veenstra and Kim give you directly a proposal for the survey, so you just pay them direct, and then after that, I would hire them to do the actual civil design from there on. But that's normally how it works, is that the owner, as we call it, would actually hire a survey done. I've done it both ways, though, quite frankly, where it's all just compiled together, but it's easier just to say, here's the survey, that portion's done, and then I hire Veenstra and Kim to do the civil design. It's nice if they're both the same, though. That way they have on-site documentation, you know, their field reports that they can review through the process of design.
Okay. That sounds fine. Would
Okay.
you get that started for me, please?
Yeah, sure thing. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I can get going on that right away. Yeah. And then I don't know if you've been thinking at all about a timeline, but you know, I had kind of bounced around the idea that if we got moving, and we would need to really get moving in the sense of design, are you thinking about having to start construction next year? Is that your goal?
As soon as possible, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You know, it's tough to say what the market's going to do, what material prices, labor, all of that. I don't think there's any harm in moving forward with the design. And then if we find the fact that there's a big problem with either material supplies or just contractor availabilities, you can always put the brakes on and think about the schedule for bidding. Normally, I would say February, March is a good time to bid this, so that contractors can get a project on their books, get lined up for the spring. The other time that we think about is June, maybe July, so that people are thinking about having a building enclosed for winter work. So I think you have two different windows, just depending on how things are. But my thought is, let's just move forward and see what we can do for a February, March bid, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think the board agrees also.
Yes.
I see nodding of heads,
Yep,
so.
that makes sense, Gary.
Okay, all right, great.
I'm looking at an aerial photo of that lot from 1970s on the Ortho GIS site. It's really
Mhm.
hard to tell on my phone, but if we brought it up on the computer, it might show better. It looks like there's a building there. Almost looks like a pretty good sized building, actually. I don't know.
Oh.
Unless it's got just some driveway or something, I don't know. Might want to
Hmm.
look that up on the computer and see what it looks like. So if you type in ArcGIS, you come up.
Maps are nice, but they just don't give you the detail.
No, but I thought the 70s would have enough detail to do it. And then there's layers, map layers that if you get into the 70s. First, I went to Forest City for the town.
I don't think I got this right.
Okay. What do you got?
Bill.
Ortho
Company Gary.
GIS. No, it's not all one word, just separated. There you
You know,
Yeah, if it's on a piece of paper, I could tell you.
go, like this.
With 10 other names.
It'll, if you
you
go
can pick it
up.
from a lineup.
Yeah.
Are they kind of a,
You're looking, yeah, go more. There, city, Forest City.
is he part of the name of the business?
It's not a Mason City, I can tell you that much.
What company does Gary work for?
Oh.
We could just ask him.
Gary, what company do you work for?
SA Architects.
SA Architects.
So what you do.
It was Scott and Anderson.
What do you say?
And then go up.
Scott
You gotta get
Anderson.
down here to refresh the map. Yes, bring this up. Yeah, there you go, for refresh map. Okay, and we're at the corner of 4th and I. So I's up here. Where's 4th? There's Clark right
That's
there.
kind of a cool
So
site.
in the, now you, okay, so now here, scroll down till you find the 70s.
Oh, shoot.
Now you gotta refresh the map. It's
We should
really
even
cumbersome.
remember what was there. We came to Forest
That'll
City
give
all
you
the
the
time.
view from the 70s.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's,
Weeks at a time here in Forest City. when I was
You
living
can't
there.
remember what was on that lot?
Stayed with my grandparents.
so,
Oh, your grandparents lived there?
I remember
So-
climbing on the tank. The one that said you're.
Oh, like right here?
Back then,
Right
I probably didn't say not to climb.
there, where you're, yeah, see, there's a tree there,
Then
but
they
I
encourage.
can't tell if that's just parking or if it's,
Can you zoom in?
well, that's the best for the image, it's just whether you can zoom on. I would say save the image and try to zoom in.
Yeah.
Right click
There you
it.
go.
Whatever it was.
You might remember. He's like 90, right?
So just save it and then open it up and try and zoom in.
It'll be somewhere in some wing of the mansion that they have an image
You got a
of it.
picture of the building.
Oh, yeah, at least. Those nice ladies down in the vault, they probably have loads
Maybe
of shots of the
we could
thing.
go back to the 60s instead and see if there's a
Okay.
different view.
Well,
It's
let's,
just not like pictometry.
no.
Are you able to zoom on the picture?
It's just black.
So does it make any sense just to get a backhoe in there and just, Gary, I'm asking you,
Would we do that before we get the negotiation done with WCTA?
Yeah, no need digging. We can't even dig until you got their permission. So that's fine.
Well, I think they would give us the permission. They want to work with us however needed.
it's just, does that come first if we want to explore this further? I mean, a backhoe's not gonna cost much to go in there and check it out compared to surveys and.
Well, we need to do a survey anyway, right?
Well, whatever's there has to come out anyway, so.
Well, that was my thought. I mean, if it's just a foundation from a house, if we dig a basement there for the building, and it's in the way, it's gotta come
Jackhammer,
out.
whatever they got out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Excavator will take care
Yeah,
of that.
exactly.
I mean, is there?
Yeah, if we don't do more oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gary.
If we don't do any more exploration, we can come up with certain parameters as to what the scope of work would be. And then the best thing to do would be to have unit prices in case we run into more debris. By that, I mean, perhaps we say that there's a, I don't know, just say 15 foot by 15 foot piece of concrete that needs to be removed, for instance. And we know that we want to dig down below that maybe a foot just because of unknown soils. We could establish a parameter of scope of work for bidding, and then if it turns out that it's larger than that or smaller than that or something, we maybe have a unit cost that would be a reduction or increase of cost. But at least we have a system of knowing what that cost would be. That is one way to handle it. The other is if we could kind of, get the building footprint a little bit more known and see how that boring is. If, for instance, we asked Chosen Valley to come back and do maybe 2 more borings in a general area that's more defined, just to see whether or not there's auger refusal, we could hopefully then establish whether or not this is something that's outside of the footprint of the building or inside it too.
So does it matter so let's say it is outside of the footprint, if it's parking or something, then it's not as big a deal?
It's not as big, no. I'm guessing based on the location of the boring, it's probably going to be more so the northwest side versus what would be the east side of parking. So if it's outside of the footprint of the building, I'd say you just leave it. Don't worry about it. Especially if it's far enough away that you don't have any concern about freeze thaw, moving of the slab, to interfere with your building. But it's the toughest unknown to think about. If we could get a survey, we could at least then probably establish these depths, kind of get a better feeling for that. And then again, I mean, one option aside from a backhoe would be just to have a couple more borings done.
Okay.
I think I was following you along with that GIS, and I believe I see, that there's a fairly large structure apparently
So
in that area, in that corner.
Look at the 1960s version. If you click on that one,
Oh, okay.
it looks like there's a building right where our public health building is. It looks like there was originally a larger building there and a driveway that goes to the north right through where the WCTA building is. But then it looks like might be some smaller buildings closer to the sidewalk.
Here. I gotta make sure I'm on the right foot. Yeah, there's 4th.
4th and I. Do you think the light spots to the north edge is just sidewalk or driveway, or do you think that's building?
Oh, now I see a little bit better image of it.
Yeah.
I wonder whether or not there was because of the slope of the ground, do you suppose it was like a lower level garage or storage area or something? Maybe, or even a cistern?
To the northeast of the big building, it looks like there's possibly small buildings there, but I'm just not sure to the straight north. Looks like there's trees and maybe just some concrete or something.
Yeah.
Because it looks like an S drive kind of.
I'm guessing it's not very big in all reality.
So they just extend.
Yeah, more than likely, it wouldn't be too difficult to get rid of.
Slopes so bad, there would have to be
Coming south,
so much fill there.
coming towards the Methodist church. That's pretty flat right there.
Well, I thought that's parking lot that the Methodist church owns.
I'm on the trustees.
Yeah, you wonder what that building was.
I didn't know that website was there, that's cool.
Oh, yeah, back to the 40s and 30s.
Yeah,
They're not
30s.
great photos, but
Terry, was
Better
there
know
any
for
consideration of going south towards the Methodist church?
What's that? Oh.
Gary?
Yeah.
Somebody's here and they were wondering if there's consideration to go south instead. We've got an alley that would divide it unless we'd have to vacate the alley.
Yeah. And the Methodist church owns the parking lot, I'm on the trustees, and probably
Would be willing to work with
potentially
us.
work with you on that, yeah.
There'd be less slope there. There's some slope, going uphill there, but not as much as the other direction. But there again, you'd have to take a basement
Yeah,
unless we have it all in one level. Depends on how much space.
Mhm.
Would it be cheaper to do more square footage on one level or a smaller footprint with a basement?
In all reality, probably one level would be less costly.
Yeah.
There's different things that you could do foundation-wise. It's a lightly loaded building, and so one level would probably be simpler in the end. The one thing I guess would be an interesting program question. We've talked about having the separate entrances for, how do I say this, healthy versus sick patients, so to speak. If you had it on the south side of the building, that might lend a little bit better to a connection point to circulation. That's a possibility. The other thing, there was discussion about a drive-through sort of scenario. And the south side, because of it being a more of a level surface area, might be nicer to work with. You could still potentially think about doing parking to the north if you were to look at this property, extending that way. But that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
I think image-wise, having it to the south, you could probably create a nicer balance to the building, the roof, the mass of the building maybe. Perhaps create a larger entrance point that could be this, left and right side of your entry feature. The big question is, would they be willing to give up the parking?
there's a good chance they might. I mean, I could find out. It'd take a little bit of a.
Interesting, because
He's
that
one of
was
their
an
trustees, so.
that was an assumption that we should probably never have made, because we kind of thought, oh, they won't want to give up parking for that, and now that might be a possibility, who knows?
I remember suggesting that.
Yes, we talked about it. Because there's alley space there too.
Are you looking at doubling the space of the existing building, or what's the approximate square footage? If you had one level?
I think we're probably gonna double it, weren't we, Gary? Depending on, well, we were gonna have about 1,800 on one level and then 1,800 in storage maybe underneath it or so. So.
Right.
it'd be more
So
than
then the
double.
question becomes, do you need all that storage? If you don't do the connection through the conference room, for instance, could you repurpose that instead to help out with some of the space of the addition?
Right.
So, yeah. And then again, how much storage do you need? So is it 3,600 you really need, or is it more like 2,800, something like that, if it was on one level?
Yeah, because I think the 3,600 was based on, we needed at least 1,800 per conference and hallways and office space. And then we would have just put a basement underneath it, another 1,800.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple, yes,
How big
right.
is the storage that we have on Main Street right now,
Well, it's office and storage.
office and storage?
I don't know.
I think the back room was maybe 12 by 20 or so. So say we had 400 square feet of storage, it'd be more than we have now.
Mhm.
We'd have maybe some
Really be nice if
organization
it was
to
all on one level, wouldn't it? Would be really nice if it could all be on one level.
It would be.
Mhm.
Well, something more to look
And
at.
if you build a larger space, just, think about it as being unfinished, even per se, or not know exactly how you want to use it down the road, that's pretty economical space. If you do build 3,600, for instance, or 3,200, and you just don't have a full use for it yet, doing it at the same time does make sense.
It'd still be conditioned and insulated and stuff, but not finished.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, you could come back later and build some walls if you decided you really need more office space or something, or if you need to separate off a couple of storage areas. Yes, yeah.
I guess
And that's
I guess the thing would be working it out with the Methodists that would be okay using that drive going south as a better driveway through that parking lot. Because our driveway to the east was part of our problem.
Yes.
We've got a nasty driveway on the east
Mhm.
side.
Yeah, the only time I suppose would be like if there'd be funeral or something, then that parking lot would get.
But it's
Otherwise, during the week,
still
it's generally-
accessible though.
Yeah, you'd always have a lane to go through.
Yeah. You always have that path to get out and in. I think people already use it. And if you had an agreement in place, I'm sure it would work out.
Yes, we're very agreeable.
Those Methodists are like that.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Okay, well, sounds like there's gonna be more discussion.
Do you think we need to do soil borings over there to determine is it less invasive if you're only doing, would it be a possible, structurally, if it's all on one level, would it have a crawl space or would it have slab on grade?
If you're going to do one level, I would just make it slab on grade, quite frankly. It would be nice to have some borings just to understand the soil conditions. It's a higher platform level, and so very well, based on what we found at the north end, it's probably going to be more stable of soil. But before you kind of go through and actually finalize all of the design, it would be good to have some borings, yes. And then we would need to come up with a concept of what that would look like, footprint, to know where to go.
It looks like where
But
where that parking lot is, there maybe a couple houses used to be there or something.
Now, if you wanted to,
Paved.
Paved.
And the alleys,
It seemed like it was, but then you
Cement
seemed
or
like there
paved?
were rocks there, so.
the church was built in 51, so I don't know about the parking lot.
if you wanted to pursue the survey, we could just do basically the whole east half from street to street. That would be a possibility.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great idea, but before we would okay that survey, we would certainly need to talk to more Methodists than just the one that's in
Oh, for sure,
attendance.
yeah.
Well, another thought, what would happen if we were to acquire just parking and add on to the east with a drive-through? Well, that's kind of disconnects it though. You're not connecting the two buildings. We have a drive-through in the middle on each side of the building. Just trying to think, and then be able to drive out the north. It's probably better to
That's why we have an architect.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So why don't
Building on both sides.
we have Robert,
I can float it past our ad council and see what if they have any interest. I know I can,
so is a week long enough?
I don't know if we'll actually get a meeting together, but I can at least have the conversation with a couple of them and see what, and I can get back to it. I can maybe talk to some people.
Okay.
Square footage wise, I mean, how far onto some of it is, of course, the city's property.
Yeah, we
The alley
we
part
have to
is-
vacate part of the alley there.
The width of the building. So would it be the 30 feet of the building that would come south? And how many square feet? You said 3,600. That
Well,
puts it,
say we put 3,000 down or something,
so then it's 100 foot.
but part of that's on the 20-foot
Yeah,
alley
so
or whatever.
about 2/3 of it would be on the Methodist church property and the other.
But we'd want to probably designate some parking for,
Yeah,
next to it too.
I can ask and see if anybody has any interest.
okay, so
So Gary, why don't you give us one more week?
Sure. That's no problem.
Okay.
table this till next,
Yeah, we've got a 30-foot alley easement there, so. And our
So we
building-
gotta
our
talk to,
building's right up against that.
we gotta talk to the city and we gotta talk to the Methodist.
Which is the usable alley anyways, so I
I
can't believe.
mean,
that
they
would
can't-
be-
It was set up as an alley to go east and west, but because of the lay of the land, there's no way to drive through there.
Mhm.
Yes. There's a reason.
okay, so we're gonna table this till next week, and we'll have questions again for you, Gary, and, we'll see if we can get some more information. Was there
Okay.
anything
All right,
else
sounds-
you'd like to add before we let you go?
No, I'll just put things on hold. If possible, I may try to have Tom take a look at a shape of a building, see if I can't if I can tear him away from what he's doing, just to kind of get an idea of how far from the north side or the south side of your existing building something could go.
Yeah.
To get about 3,000 square feet, because I'm kind of curious on that myself.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting as well. Okay, well, thank you.
All right. Yep, you bet. No problem at all.
Thanks, Gary.
All right. Have a good day. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Gary Anderson.
Has left.
Interesting. Okay. Where are we at? We're at auditor's office. We'll discuss drainage. Hey, Chris, we're ready for you. Thanks. You know, we talked about that parking lot way early on, and just, I think we must have made the assumption that it was out of reach, couldn't happen. Maybe something will. Hello. Drainage.
I just have what's on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Anything other than that you guys have to talk to her about?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's go to, number 8, to approval petition to add observation intake to DD 43 Lat 2.
JD Gomat from the Garner NRCS stopped in last week, and they want to add an intake, and that just so they can observe the water going through there. They believe there's a plug somewhere, and I've been in contact with Jeremy Rockness because he is working in that area, and he is going to be there Thursday or Friday of this week to take a look at it to see if there's a landowner that's right there that has some trees blocking the tile. If so, he's gonna have the landowner remove those trees. But as of right now, he doesn't know. But JD Gomat would like to have approval, it's on their land, to just put in an intake. Normally, we approve those anyway, but he wanted the board approval. So. That's what I had for that one.
So whose responsibility is the trees?
The landowner.
This is that parcel where they have good filtration systems for the water. I think they retain water and they let it. I've been up there and seen it before.
Okay.
This would be west of Mary Ryerson's place.
Oh,
I think we're talking about the right one.
Okay.
so,
I've been out there
Oh,
with
there it is.
Lynn, did a tour on the ranger with him. Yeah, he gave me everything. It's a pretty good system they have for water filtration there.
Nice, good.
That was kind of his,
is that where that pond is? Is
huh?
that where that pond is?
Yeah,
That's it?
that's the
Yeah,
filtration.
I know what that is. Okay,
That'd be your district.
it
I think.
would. So, I'll make a motion to approve the petition to add an observation intake to DD 43 Lat 2.
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that a bioreactor type setup with wood chips? And
I don't know if they have that. I just know they're trying to filter with the absorption into the ground and then catching it into the ponds. I know there was a while back, we were working at the corner there, south of Mary Ryerson's. It was that area, Abel's had a problem
Oh,
with drainage. It's about that time.
okay.
We went out and looked at things.
Okay, consider for approval addition of outlet tiles to main ditch on DD 3.
Again, this is something we do when we clean out, we do. JD also, he's requesting permission on behalf of the landowner to install a new tile outlet in the ditch bank, which we do. So, he just wants your approval.
So I can make the motion to approve the addition of outlet tiles to main ditch on DD 3. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Smith, second by Jensvold
I have a
to,
question on that. So
Oops.
where is that at?
This is on section 35 of Eden. And he also gave a map. So here's our open ditch, and I wasn't here when they did, so I'm not exactly sure. These are all existing tiles. If they need to take down some trees here.
Is this the area? No.
is that,
Scott, you still have the salt shed across from your, that's yours. And then the building to the west of you, is that the old deal, is that a DOT building? From the last time it was?
is it down in sub
The
2?
one that Ron owns, that was DOT, that's what.
Is this even here?
And that's been 20 years ago since.
No,
they
you
bought
don't
it.
have
Yeah.
Oh,
Either way.
yeah, it is Eden. Yep.
So it is,
It's in here.
it is in
Does
there.
the city have any,
So that's DD seven.
any discussion about
It is.
the old DOT?
This is 35.
Three is the
lot
This is
on the
35,
city
or this
owns
is 3
on the
here.
side of the trail?
Right.
Another
We talked
one,
about
yeah.
making a trailhead. Have you heard anything about progress?
And if it
There is
goes-
actually
yeah.
some plan going on.
So like
Yeah.
going from
Is there a stub ditch right
Not
there?
much, but
No.
there's
Flat main.
signs and benches and tables,
Yeah.
some
Actually,
stones.
Well,
and
if
then
this would be DD
It's actually there now.
seven.
in progress.
Oh,
I think they poured the pad last time.
their work.
There's that little house there.
Yeah.
I used to live straight across the road.
Junky house.
Section
I
35.
think Adam Torkelson might own that.
I think that's right.
Did.
As far as much
And then he's got somebody living in it. Right. Well, any improvements would be good there.
yeah.
Wouldn't take
Just wanted to know where it was.
Maybe.
Yeah, figured
It's
out.
kind of like, you know, your
Yeah.
little parking lots are, stones around it, single sign,
So that's what they're looking at. Here's our main ditch of 3.
it's kind of a lot, big lot, really.
I'm not exactly sure where they want to put in the new tiles, but,
Oh, there's the tree.
and then there's some here too. But this is a different spot than
Oh,
the other issue. Yeah. Because that's up here, and this is more over here. So. Okay.
all right, thanks.
That answers my question.
Pardon?
Now we can vote.
Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. All right. Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
All right,
All right, thank you.
thanks. Always fun to get out the maps. Open forum.
Up in this area.
Big parking spots in 60 feet. 6. How wide's an average parking lot? I think it's all right.
Never wide enough. Especially if you have a pickup.
Scott, do you have to deal with sam.gov? Have you ever re-registered?
We are registered,
You are registered, but have you ever had to re-register?
yeah,
Have you ever let it expire?
no,
Don't ever do that.
I get enough reminders from Kelsey.
2 months.
I
I'm
think
just about to the end of it.
seems like the county should be having only one account.
No,
It's because they used to have different DUNS numbers, but when they
They did away
changed from
with DUNS.
DUNS numbers to unique entity identifier number, I thought.
And that's what caused my problem when I went to
That's a weird
re-register.
decision.
It, they kicked it out. It
It's-
created an incident ticket.
Yep.
That was 2 months ago. I think I'm to the end of it now where
God's country there.
they're sending it to the Department of Defense and Logistics and that's all it is for a little, it's about an $8,000 grant we're getting from Fish.
Yeah. Yeah,
And he told me, friend of mine that works at Fish Company. He said, I've heard that renewing it is much more of a hassle. The first time around, it went fine.
We can
Okay,
contact
so we
people
have-
about the meeting,
I'll never let it.
What's that?
let everybody know about the committee meeting.
I think we have like 6 different accounts.
Yeah, we're gonna start picking.
should be combined now.
What has to happen
There's
with
only one
this?
unique
Just,
entity identified.
Nothing, it's just for
No, I think I've
information.
got mine.
okay, nothing more.
I know Kelsey and I and
Out of our
Health
control.
share, I think now.
Ultimately.
I'll have to look, but I mean, I just
Make
got,
waves.
well, I just
I
got,
know we used to.
yeah, no, this is,
So, who else on the committee?
Yeah, who's
when
on
we
the committee?
switched from
Chris.
the Duns to the unique.
She's not here today.
That's the first time I'd seen that number. Now, maybe it is the same.
Julie.
Julie,
Yeah, Julie was one.
Maybe we should get her a call and let her know.
well, she won't be here.
Oh, you won't? Okay. All right. And
She's working from home, I think.
Was Chris on? Colby?
yeah, but she's
Yeah,
gone.
here it is.
I think who else was on it?
Did you already say Kelsey? Was she on?
No, I don't think she was on it. I don't think Julie was on it. Julie Swenson. I think that's about it then.
Oh,
Would we have done that June, July last year?
I'll text Julie.
I was gone, where was I? New baby?
Yeah, you weren't here the first go around, I don't think.
It was new baby, and then it had been about, there's towards September 7th. Or I guess it'd be September. So I was off for, the month of September. So Eric sat in on it.
Is there anybody on the phone? I just sent a text to Julie.
Usually we can tell when she gets on.
Yeah. But not maybe always from home. She's usually doing it from her office.
You can close.
Julie says she can get on the line in just a bit.
Julie has joined.
And you said Chris was not here?
Correct.
Okay.
I think really that's about it. I'll keep looking, but
All right, well, let's,
Okay, so here, I brought it up from an article at the Register. Winnebago County is supposed to get 2,011,143.
We've received all of them so far?
yes.
And, yeah.
So just over 2 million. Figure.
so do we have a breakdown of the funds that we've,
Allocated.
yes,
Started working with that.
800,000 for public health, 500,000 for conservation, 100,000 for recorder and auditor for recording documents, and then 400, what was it, number, Terry, 400,
437,811
yep, for contingency for,
guaranteed loan, kind of, for the conservation project.
that was the
What does
number,
that mean?
that was the number I couldn't remember.
Means they're hoping to raise the funds, and so we may have those funds available at some
Yeah, the
point.
plan is to replace that guarantee with donated grants and
I understand.
donated funds.
I understand,
But to move forward, we guaranteed it to get the ball rolling.
I understand.
Is everybody doing the math or just me?
Now we're down to 332 undesignated funds so far. So about 170,000, 160,000 right now. But have they gained anything on it a little
A
bit?
little, just a little bit, just right after the fair, we had a couple of donations, but not large. Well, they were large individually, but not. We had one change order here like a month ago before the Iowa building codes changed on elevators. They have to add audio into or video into our elevator system, not just audio. So that you can talk to somebody if you're in the elevator. Now we have to have video. That has been included. So that was a change order. It went into effect. Well, the code changed July 1st, so that affects us. But we're also working with the contractor as far as the start date. We're hoping maybe next month. And he's requested some changes, and so we're looking at that right now as far as some of the materials we would use. Looking at SIP panels potentially, so, on the exterior walls. Makes the project go quicker when it goes up.
And that lowers the cost.
It lowers the labor for the walls. And then the SIP panels, I think, tend to be a little bit higher priced than stick-built, percentage-wise. To be determined yet. We haven't. My board hasn't met on it yet, but
You get an opinion from the architect or engineer.
it won't cost us any extra money.
No, I'm talking more of an opinion on structurally, is it?
Oh, yeah, no, that was the first thing we did was we contacted them. We had to find out if we could go that route after that we had let bids. And then they looked at it structurally, and then it went down to the engineers, and they just came back yesterday and said they don't have any changes. You'd have to work closely with your electrician, the mechanical side of things, but make sure, and with the SIP panels, they put in the chases for the electrical.
As long as there are no changes. As long as there are no changes. Otherwise, your electrical will
They won't like it.
probably double.
Yeah, they're talking, they have to be talking with the electrical contractor. We went and looked at one, a couple of us did Friday.
And who is your electrician?
I believe it's gonna be Albert Lee Electric. That's what we were told.
As long as you use all their chases,
Yeah,
not do anything additional. I found that out. Okay, so what are we discussing?
Well, I had brought up in the discussion with Home Base Iowa, the possibility of having clean water funding available for rural development and housing. And whether we want to do that just through the Veterans Program on Home Base Iowa, or we do it for any new development in the rural areas. I'd like to hear what, you could do, a typical sanitary sewer system, if you're gonna develop, is gonna be, probably 8 to 12,000. If you're paying somebody to install it, you probably know more about that. I did my own, I know what the material costs are.
We're probably more at 11 to 15.
How many bathrooms?
It depends on how many bathrooms, yeah. 3.
Yours are 3, yeah.
ours is about 16, but that's already been 3 years ago, so. And that's a bigger building, of course. So.
Yeah, you're gonna have more load at a time. You always have to account for that.
So you're suggesting that some of the ARPA funds could help to,
Stimulate economic growth in housing.
on
Rural areas.
acreages and rural?
And maybe down the road, after the ARPA funds are done, and maybe we could look at it as a budget item. We used to have a $5,000 stimulus for any new housing in the county, but, that included city and county, but we didn't benefit as much for, like I was telling Carla this morning, we have a great road crew, we have a good road system, and the cost of doing business is a lot greater when you have fewer people living in the rural areas. If you can fill some of those vacant acreages or add more acreages, it seems like it's more palatable to have that budget in place to help spread the costs out around.
So whatever happened to the monies that used to come from the landfill? Was that, there was some new house development monies that
It's
used
just
to?
how we allocated it. We stopped
Oh,
it at
just-
some point. There was some people complaining that it was the people that had the money that were getting the money because they were building the houses, but sometimes it was they were selling their other house for somebody else, so that was a benefit. But there again, even if they had the money and they spent the money, they're putting up a nice house that was taxable.
Taxable.
The other thing was, if you're gonna build a new structure on an existing acreage or starting an acreage, you have to drill a new well sometimes. Whether we want to put money towards that in this funding or not, I don't know.
And the county makes more money on an acreage with people living on it and people
don't have
doing
to share
business and,
A lot of times when you develop in town, it goes into a TIF district, or they have abatement, or we don't see the taxes for many years.
Do we have a rough count of,
How many acreages?
yeah,
I suppose through our recycling program, we kind of have an idea how many.
I had that number from years ago when we started the recycling,
Yeah,
but I know it's gone down since then, but I can't remember.
there's been quite a few
It
acreages.
was
removed.
1,000, 1,300 maybe?
I can tell you there's 60 in Lincoln Township, and there's 230 in, spit it out, right down here.
You talking
Valley.
Valley?
Are you talking vacant?
No,
People?
I'm just talking acreages on the plat map, I counted them.
because you were trying to figure out how to allocate EMS stuff, weren't you? Yep.
Yeah, no, and just for the general population of this area,
population.
because there's 230 acreages, the odds of somebody being on them all is a lot higher. There's only 60 acreages in Lincoln.
I think it's certainly something to look at. I like the overall thought process of it.
I mean, it definitely fits into the clean water part of it.
It does.
And administration of it, you know, you could have it through the sanitarian. He already works with wells and sewer systems. Or, I guess, right now, the other, on their vets, I mean, would you do this for anybody or just vets, or would you have an extra incentive for vets to relocate here, or?
How much was the incentive for the vets? I mean, what did we even ever talk about or did they talk about a dollar amount?
Well, we're doing $1,000 through Windward Vetco for relocation.
And that's,
Almost 6 a year, was it?
and that's just a cash thing though? I mean, it's
If
just,
they relocate here, then they would get a grant of $1,000. Not a huge incentive to.
No.
The problem I see with tying up ARPA funds is that ARPA has to be used by a certain amount of time. I still think that the people who can afford to buy an acreage don't need the extra $5,000. I think that it's not enough to really incentivize somebody to build an acreage. Or to move to here. It's a feel-good thing. I feel like the ARPA money should go towards something that's bigger, that we can use up and say this is where the ARPA money went. I think if you want to do something for the veterans, I think it should be budgeted for and done that way. I don't think ARPA is where that money should come from.
because you can't take a pool of money and it has to be spent.
It has to be spent by 26, and I don't think
There
you're
was
gonna
not
get that
be
many
enough.
people moving into Winnebago County in that amount of time. I think the ARPA money needs to be allocated and spent, and we need to know what we're gonna use it for and just be done with it.
If we're gonna make it a budget thing later anyway, we just as well make it a budget thing now.
I think so. I think, as much as I hate for it to go to secondary roads, just kidding, Scott. I
Did
think
she say
that,
that out loud?
We can't really do that until we find
right,
out on the
right.
nature center.
But I think that putting it towards Scott's building is a good place to put it, once we figure out where Robert's coming in with his money, I think. But I
The
think,
latest it would be, it'd be the end of next year,
Mhm.
could be sooner, but that's when it's scheduled to be finished, the end of the year.
But I think allocating, the 173 at this point, and then putting whatever's left on from whatever Robert doesn't use on Scott's building, I think is a good place to put the ARPA money.
So you're saying for the home-based Iowa, you don't think any of this should be used towards that?
I don't. I think if
I
you're
can
gonna,
see, since we don't know how much, where that's even gonna come in, whether it's gonna come in at nothing. I mean, it might not be anything.
Yeah, I think if you wanna do Home Base Iowa something, I think you should budget for it and make a decision on how much you wanna put towards Home Base Iowa, budget for it, and take it out of your budget. I don't think ARPA is the place to do this.
I looked at it as a place to start. If you allocate X amount of dollars towards so many grants in the first year, 2 years, or whatever, and if it doesn't get used up, then we allocate it to that building project, add it to it. And then going forward after that, then we budget out of our funds possibly for that part of it. I'm kind of an impatient person when it comes to getting people to relocate in the rural areas. I think it's a highly impactful thing. I'm so despondent on the way things have been going in the rural areas, people losing more and more acreages, and I think it's something we've got to address.
Problem is a lot of the farmers, instead of selling the acreages that are decent, the farmers are plowing them up and putting them into fields.
But there are a
So-
number of them that are individually owned that they're just not doing anything with them. There's no incentive there. I don't know the reasons on some of them.
Did our census go up a little bit?
Population
this last time?
decline, I'd
Or
No,
say.
it actually went down, which is,
But Fort City went up.
I mean,
Fort City
90% of the
kinda
counties
carries.
are going down and, the bigger metropolises are going up.
We did better for less loss than Hancock and some of those, but Fort City pretty much carried it.
If I could have bought a house with a well and a septic on it already, I would have, I would have much rather have done that, but there's not places.
We don't have rural water systems.
I do like the idea of the clean water development, though. I think that's something that we should keep looking at.
If we're just gonna budget for it, we're a year out, at least. Almost 2 years.
And whether it will be incentive enough to get anyone to do it, but if, as a farmer, I know that it's difficult to sometimes you don't mind keeping the acreage there, not necessarily bulldozing it over, but it's really nice to own it. If you have to farm around it, it's really nice to own it. So I think there's probably a lot of that, they just,
Do you think as a farmer, you just don't like maybe they don't like the idea of parceling out that acreage and then, who knows? who
it's
the
when you're
neighbor's gonna be.
you're spraying around it, you have, you wanna be extra careful when someone else owns it, and
Like one day I got notice from the guy spraying around my house, I had 3 minutes until they were gonna spray insecticide and fungicide.
I get the calls every once
or
in a
then
while.
if somebody
Three
decides to
Hold your
put,
breath and start driving.
I mean,
know.
I was grilling outside, I had stuff to cover up, and I had 3 minutes notice and the sprayer was right there.
or if they decide to put beehives
Yeah.
on their acreage, and then all of a sudden,
1 mile
yeah,
separation.
so sometimes it's just easier to own it if you're gonna farm around it.
What's your thoughts, Bill? You're kinda quiet.
Always quiet.
What do you think, let's say if we look at, in 2026, that gives you like maybe 3 years from developing a program. I mean, how many do we reasonably think would take advantage of a program like that?
Through, you talking
Like,
about through Home Base Iowa or through
Well, I
all
guess
encompassing?
either way, I guess, however you decide to fund it. I mean, is it something you'd get one a year, or would you get
Oh, I think
5
we
year?
did several.
Because this has to have veterans associated with it, right?
Well, because of
That's how it started. That's how it started, was
That was the
that way.
initial push, and then we thought, well, maybe we should include, like we used to, more incentives for, but before, when we had the incentive, it was for any house, well, that doesn't benefit us much.
So I think where it started, this conversation, was that, I can't remember who said it that day with Home Base, but they said they had like 15 veterans right now looking for property that they wanted to
They
own
like rural.
in the country. That surprised me a little bit, but who did say that? I can't remember.
Probably be looking at
it's
one,
probably
minimum of 200,000 for a
The
house,
gentleman.
2.25.
Yeah.
I don't think that built.
Not even do it.
And some of these acreages are on blacktops.
Mhm.
And that'd be our preference, is if they were on blacktop, we don't want them on level B roads. But, secondary roads, primary roads are okay. Between Highway 9 and Vineyard, there's 2 vacant acreages there that have been utilized for 30 years.
Yeah, it's hard to know what that incentive is that actually moves the needle, and is it just like gravy for the person, yeah, like you said, who can afford it?
But I wonder if, I don't know, if the sellers need to be more contacted than the buyers.
Part of the transaction, I guess.
Yeah. just- So is there anything else that we need to be discussing about the,
If you were talking 600,000 possibly or more,
I think 600,000 is a good number for the project. If it's more or less, up or down, I mean, our department can cover it. I think even the 175 tells me we're ready to go, and then we can start, developing the project. Even if then at the end, we didn't get any of the temporarily allocated funds, we could budget for the rest.
Carla, what's the allocation date? Was it the end of 23 or 24?
I think it's
It has to be
24.
allocated. That sounds
2 years before the end date.
That's
That
what I have
sounds
in my mind.
And we know that shop buildings don't qualify for really any grant funding anywhere. So this is the only opportunity we may ever have to get funding other than budgeted funds for this kind of project. And I know one thing is that it's a simple enough project that we can get it done, quickly in the next couple of years. So if that's one of the goals, is to get money allocated and spent, certainly is a project that will do that.
Do you have any examples, of ARPA being used for that type of project? I know EMS, public health, and those kind of things, I just think,
They all kind
No,
of.
but the newest,
they did change it though, didn't they?
yeah,
Kind of
Yeah.
use
Well, I
that.
think up in Minnesota, they were buying dump trucks up there.
Mm.
They were,
I think the HVAC part of it alone that would
and I think
qualify.
didn't the Woodbury County Jail.
Jail, that's what they were, last I heard they were
It's
trying.
gotten looser and looser, and I'm
Well,
not gonna
that was right away. I mean,
Yeah, they were
that
gonna
was
do
the
it.
first set of rules.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to pretend like this is water quality related or anything like that. It isn't.
No.
Hopefully we can
Well,
attain some
you'll
better air
have, you'll have
quality
new,
in the
new
building.
shop drains that
Yeah, we
trap
will.
things that you need to trap.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
pretty,
there's
pretty
all-
minor impact, but yeah. So
I'll have to admit that it just seems like something that's, should be almost a general, your budget thing, because it's just something that's, my guess is there'll be other holes in the future that'll be a little more uncommon for the ARPA funds than, either, no matter where you spend it, I guess it takes it out of the county taxes. But it just, your project just seems to have not as much
community impact.
Not a sexy project.
The
Yeah,
des-
no, yeah.
the destination I
I
would.
mean, me, I'm a shop guy, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Are projects that are meant to pull people into your community or county.
Yeah,
Now, there's 100 million there, but I heard it's going to bigger projects. Saragordo County and the city are applying for multiple millions, I think, for their trail development. Those funds. And that's ARPA money that was,
Which, you know,
The
I mean, getting people out in the open, just like your conservation out here is, you know, that's where it has its COVID connection, I guess, in the sense that anything that's outdoors is, but this just seems less, supportive.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that Kevin got some quotes for, the,
HVAC.
I don't know if it's HVAC, but the system in here to bring cool and hot water in at the same time to maybe cut down on some of the condensation problems we have in the courthouse.
But we also talked about if we're actually gonna use ARPA funding for something like that, maybe we should be looking at circulating air. You know, more the air quality,
Mhm.
where maybe a different system should be looked at. If it's efficient enough,
Yeah.
and transition's not,
you know, a lot of the schools do that. So
Eric.
there are ARPA funds.
Air quality issues in the courthouse seem to be more ARPA fund related than the shop does.
sure. Yeah.
There's a lot more people in and out of here than there is out of the shop, even though your air quality there, I mean, and I'm all for not breathing diesel.
or asbestos.
Or asbestos.
Well, asbestos is, I mean, that's,
Just don't
like,
drill
if you don't disturb it, it's, I mean, we tore out an asbestos ceiling out in California once, and then we got in trouble over it. I mean, I took it out myself. Didn't know it was asbestos at the time, I just soaked it all down with water and peeled it off. And then we had a test of that house, and they tested the inside air, and that inside air actually tested for less asbestos than the natural air outside. So, you know, but they still won their lawsuit because there was mental anguish.
Well, a previous employer had me, before the law changed, remove all the asbestos wrap on the pipes in the building, dispose of it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's,
The other thing that my people in some of the offices will like me to bring up is they would like the water fountains too, that have the little pothole things, and that's
so
another,
people aren't slopping or spit all over them and stuff like that.
Well, the bottle thing is,
Hands-free.
Now the bottle, yeah, those
Mhm.
things are nice.
Fill mine up in the sink. It's a real pain.
what did we come up with an estimate on that bottle?
I think they're like $2,000.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just have one or
Oh,
slow?
we've got one on each floor. What, is there a drinking fountain on each floor?
Isn't that one on the?
I don't think there's one on downstairs.
The new side is here? Downstairs?
There's one on the new side, there's one here. I think there might be one upstairs, I don't know.
It seems like I've seen one on each floor, but I got
I
really
think
good memory.
one
just-
centrally located one would be plenty.
I think this is the one that
Makes
the
the most sense.
most people use.
I actually think that's a good
Those are
spot for
smaller amounts.
Yeah.
Trail racers?
I had thought that, and I was scared to bring it up because it competes with my other idea. But the Hanson Trail on the highway needs to be resurfaced.
What's that cost?
I don't have a quote yet, but it's in the works.
What is it, 6 foot?
8
Oh, it's
foot
eight
times
foot.
3
It's
miles.
wider in places.
8 foot times 3 miles, couple 100,000 probably.
Where'd the money for that originally come from?
Ice-T, Iowa Surface Transportation Efficiency Act.
That was enhancement monies, or I used
It
to
was
call
through
it.
it was federal money through the DOT that, I happened to be on the trail committee and, but anyway, yeah, so it was built in 98. It was about, I think it might have been 450,000
I think it was like 550.
Engineering too, but
Yeah.
for 3 miles trail.
But it connected the state park with Fort.
Essentially connected, yeah. And it's 24 years old. So
Yeah, that's a project too, that you could snap your fingers and get it done next summer.
How's the rest of the
Now,
road
part of it is in the city limits,
Rest of the
the
roads.
first half mile.
that it's attached to?
Well, the on-road part, we're gonna work on this summer, just with road funding,
Mm.
and that's fine. It will be good.
And where did the monies come for the trail that goes through town that hooks up to
Hanson
it?
Foundation, some private donations, other private donations, yeah.
Okay. That's the one that goes behind,
But they can apply for those
Well,
same.
that one,
Trail
Scott's been
monies.
involved in that one directly, so he would know.
So that one got done, yeah,
All
through
private.
Hanson Foundation, Winnebago Industries Foundation, and big donation from Korth family, and then other private donations.
The Pamela Park one was the Hanson Foundation, some private donations from J Street South.
so what would that cost?
Couple $100,000, I'm guessing. Yeah, I haven't even done an estimate, but I have a quote coming just to know, because it's time to start thinking about that.
And the ITAP monies don't do
So
resurfacing,
you don't like these, you
That's
don't
such a
like
shame.
maintenance projects.
Yeah.
because there'd be endless applications there.
That's
Most of the
probably-
ITAP monies have been going down to Saragordo County for the rail bed trail.
They've got a 27-mile trail they're finishing,
yeah,
but it's crushed
Segments-
rock,
Segments every year.
That's
all railroad right away,
bike and
hike and bike and,
bike?
yeah, hard to make a case for
There's
a dead end 3
one
miles.
1 mile section, I think they allow snowmobiles to get to another trail.
yeah, that's what people like, they like them long trails, they can get on and go all day.
That project's something you'd have to fund 100%. Nobody else would have any money to match it. Maybe some fundraising, but
So what are you gonna be doing to the road then?
patchwork and micro surfacing, it looks like. This year's just patchwork.
So when you redo it, it'll be a nice smooth, when you,
It'll be smoother, you know, it's rolled down
that's pretty
the
rough.
whole way. Some spots worse than others, so we're doing the worst of it.
And then coming back in on the 340th.
Yeah. But, you know, part of the road, so treating it like part of the road. But I certainly can't fundraise for a new shop, so I'm fine.
Well, is there any actions to be taken today then? Do we want to? Allocate for a water fountain?
Yeah, let's just jump in with both feet and spend all this money. I think the water fountain's a fine idea.
I think we were all kind of in agreement, we just hadn't
Yeah.
really talked about it at a meeting necessarily.
I think it's a fine idea too,
I think only one.
to get one water fountain up here.
Do we need a vote?
Well, let's make sure we go through what other things we've been discussing.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of feel like my project is, at this point, know enough to say yes or no, or a certain amount. Kind of give me some direction on how to move forward, maybe, or maybe not ready for that yet.
I don't-
You know, of all the things we've talked about, right, the shop in detail, the rural housing incentive, which, I mean, I don't know how much you'd think, even if you just got started with some ARPA funds and then picked it up with budget later or something. I mean, you're not talking about. You're
Because
talking
at the
about,
last point of allocating,
say you allocate for rural housing incentives for clean water, you allocate it now, and then you, at whatever that date in 2024, in 2 years, you can, right before that date, we could reallocate for something else if we decided it's not working.
Yeah.
It's not doing it. I don't think they'd have any problem with reallocation as long as you do it by the timeline.
Mhm.
Because once you designate it, it's gotta be used for that.
No, well, I wouldn't probably put it into the system, but they've also said that you can put it into the system and change it. So,
Right up until 2026.
24.
Well, that's what I mean. By 24, we have to actually.
Yes, 24 you have to.
That's where I think if we put it into the system now,
We can
try it for 2 years or a little less and push towards that. But would we do it just for the home base Iowa, or would we do it for anybody that wants to develop on rural property?
I think for anyone who wants to develop a rural property personally, but because it's just not gonna be a high ticket number.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is 50,000, like, the right starting point, or,
yeah, 30,
I don't know.
Well, we
I
talked
think
about 6 for the home base Iowa.
You mean
so
per
No.
house, you mean, or are you talking about just
yes,
maximum?
per grant.
maximum per year, yeah.
Oh, available total. Or
So
are you
like
talking about per
5,000
individual?
per
Oh,
house,
okay.
30,000 total, because we talked about 6
I see.
for home base.
Well, that's home base, but if we're gonna do it for everybody, I think it needs to be a larger budget to develop in the rural areas.
So 6 was the cap for veterans.
Right.
And right now in the rural areas, how many new houses? I mean, what have we got for new? Like, I'm trying to think of any new houses going up in the rural area.
Yeah, I can't think of
I
any.
can't think of any right now.
What's the newest house?
Yeah,
There's
Susan's,
been additions.
Yeah.
Susan's, retro.
There's one right over the state line that's on a acreage. in
So yours is the
Minnesota.
newest house in
Good
Winnebago.
thing you already built yours, you wouldn't be able to vote on this.
Yeah, yeah,
Conflict of
and I'm-
interest.
missing out.
Oh, I know one. Adam Helmsville went out west. But I haven't thought about there. But yeah, that one's going up. I haven't seen it, but I know it's going up.
I mean, we'd have to come up with a list of criteria of,
When the start date,
yeah.
when it's available.
I know about by Buffalo, there's been talk, but I would hold my breath.
Or, and if it was an existing acreage that already was there, or if it was a brand new lot, you know?
Or do you want to just talk about well renovations? I mean, that's like a fourth of a well, I suppose, a third of it maybe. Give or take.
Well, that's the other thing I was wondering about, you got, if you buy somebody's parcel,
Or septic.
and you have to have septic.
Septic, that would be in water
Well,
quality, definitely
could
be a
be
water quality.
another grant of some sort to help with it, just to save
Yeah.
a well or replace a well.
Because that would definitely, I mean, the septic obviously gonna impact water quality, so.
I guess my initial budget I was looking at was 5,000 for sanitary sewer and 3,000 for wells, with, it's all on reimbursables. You have to have your costs in there, what you spent to get reimbursed for it or something. You can't just get the money and say, yeah, I was gonna do it. And I did.
Well, it's definitely a clean water development.
Or you could even go further and say, just the septic renovations on existing acreages that, you know, not maybe having a transaction, but they need that improvement, kick in some of that money to go towards a new septic system.
If they're doing a building improvement.
No, I mean, if they're,
I'd rather
they've got low.
I'd rather have a building improvement before.
Well, I see what you're saying.
I wanna
I'm
get
just
the
thinking
tax
water,
back.
the water quality side of it would be, That would have improved water quality potentially, but
Most of the old wells are too small of a pipe to service most newer homes too, right?
yeah.
I mean, they're like,
Yes,
that's what
good.
my
Depends
well
if it was
guy
a-
said, you know,
Yes.
because I had a well, but, you know, and they were like, well, you know, it's probably a 4-inch or, can't remember what he said, you know, that's probably not gonna be big enough to service a new home anyway. So you wanna go to a different one. So
And
the
did
septic
person that
side
told
makes.
you this, did they also sell you the well?
They gave me a bid on it, yes, they did.
Well, like, I think my dad's was a 6-inch well, but he had like lots of spraying he did. All his water went through there for the spraying part of it,
Mhm. I think it's the unit that fits down in them, or,
the casing.
yeah.
I guess that's my proposal, to do 5,000 for sanitary and 3,000 for well renovations, if you're gonna put a minimum of, I don't know what the number would be, of improvements towards the rural property. We have to determine what that minimum would be. I don't know, 50,000 goes a long ways towards an improvement on a house.
Do you want me to pull the old,
What's that?
do you want me to pull the old qualifications on the old?
It wouldn't hurt if you have that.
I can find it.
I wonder if it was 100,000 you had to spend on to get to 5,000. In today's dollars,
Not a huge incentive. I mean, but if somebody was gonna make just $50,000 worth of improvement on an existing home, it would make.
I've been talking to a lot of younger couples that are looking for acreages, that it'd be nice if they could buy some of these up and relocate on them and start a family and support our school systems. And there's a lot of elderly people that should move off the farm.
Is there a qualification you can put on? You probably can't just say if you're under 40 or something.
That sounds a
You know, there
little-
used to be a lot of first-time home buyer programs. You know, for your first property you owned or whatever. I remember getting that when I bought my first house, tax credit or something.
So there's a lot of
That's what the city's doing, with tax credits on those 800 or however many of those houses they've got available.
Yeah.
Isn't it tax abatements and?
There's two different ways that you can do it, tax abatement or tax rebate, and on what the city has in place already. In some towns, you could, if you don't have a tax abatement process, you could do a rebate after the fact.
Have they sold any of those? Have you heard how that's going?
Of the,
Those houses they've been promoting?
the Soylent ones, not yet, but there's a handful of people interested. None of this would help them.
If, kind of an agreement that the program want to set up, I mean, of course, the details can follow later. You could allocate money today and then figure out the program.
Yeah.
It's like 8,000 for 6 properties, 48,000.
Because what would they be, like if you had not, you know, an abandoned acreage, I mean, and somebody went in and renovated it, I mean, what's gonna be what's it being taxed right now that it's sitting there, you
I
know?
mean, okay, just for instance, across from my dad's place,
Mhm,
where he used to live on the blacktop, Tom Cole owns it.
mhm.
Has no interest in selling it for whatever reason. He's paying taxes on this. I don't know if it's because of the cemetery that's in the grove or what it is. That could be parceled off and we could figure that out, but that would be a really nice acreage right there on the blacktop
Yeah.
that somebody could develop. There's probably hardly any taxes being paid there. can
Is
look
it
it
based
up.
on the land sitting on, the tax rate?
The land and the buildings, but I'm sure she has no value on the house
But
or.
on a 40-acre tract, if you have a house that's part of the 40-acre tract, is it taxed based on the value of the house, or is it taxed based on the value of the land?
Well, see, his is an individual.
No, yeah, I know that one, but if it was on a 40-acre or whatever tract, parcel, so does the house get assessed the value of the land, or the value of the house plus the land? Because, I mean, the land is assessed at about $20 an acre, give or take, in Winnebago County.
Yeah, land and building value, just like in town, you know. you
So
have
that
land
the building value is still not,
But then there's another part of the formula where if it's a farmer and part of his operation, he lives on the,
right,
I mean, well, I just kind of equate it to these hog buildings. They're not industrial, they're not commercial, they're agricultural. And you aren't getting as much return on the taxes because it's put into the whole ag formula.
yeah, okay, that's what I thought, okay.
And that's the same with probably if it's part of the farm operation, you know, part of that 40 acres, then it's not as much taxes, just a separate residence.
Okay.
So do we think we want to start with the, well, if we're gonna do countywide, anybody outside of home base Iowa is 6 of them enough?
Probably not, but I think it's a place to start, and it's first come, first serve.
Did you get 6 properties redeveloped? I mean, that sounds awesome.
That sounds awesome to me too, if we
I
could,
don't think you're gonna get any more than that in a year either.
Yeah, I don't,
I think that'd be amazing if we could get something like that happening. So, I don't know, I don't think any more than that. Do you?
I'd like to, be nice to,
Yeah, a lot of people have held off just because of the COVID did with all the prices, so that,
prices are, you know, some of the commodity prices are better now, but the labor's not any better. Because OSB is stabilized down there, not far from where it was pre-COVID.
closer, good.
It's been the same price now probably for over a month. Probably only I'd say 10% increase over pre-COVID.
The file is huge, so you're gonna have to give me till next
No,
week. to
we're
look
talking
at.
about if we just allocate the monies and come up with the details,
Okay,
Later.
because that's more of a board decision on the details.
okay. I just need to do some more research on.
So we kind of came to the conclusion to start with the 6 of them at 8,000 total, three for well, what if there's, you know, I mean,
Yeah, because maybe the well takes the whole 8.
so just make it for well and sanitary sewer, however it comes out.
However it comes out.
Because some of them might not need a new septic if they've got it already.
Yeah,
not
some
need
might
a
not,
well.
and some might not need a well.
Yeah. I need one or the
I'd be
other.
okay with that. So do a $48,000 budget for that, and then do the 2,000 for that to make it 50,000. Include the water fountain.
For the water fountain.
what's Robert's number again for his contingency?
437, 811.
Can I make it what the actual number of the drinking fountain is? 'Cause I can't remember what it is.
Sure.
I guess would be fine. You have to buy some Solo cups. Buy it.
Is it gonna be a filtered one?
Yes. I don't know that answer.
Sure it is.
We'll have a filter.
So that leaves 100,
30,
I'm looking at 123.
123, 332, but she's got some change on the,
one,
Plus Roberts.
right, plus whatever he is able to fundraise. I'll take it.
Robert's gonna fundraise all sorts.
I think it'd be good for them to research some possibilities for the HVAC here. I mean, different options.
Gotten a quote for something.
That's more the radiator,
Mhm.
non-circulating air exchange type thing. I'd almost like to know, is there a system that would work for this courthouse to update?
Where is
its
it?
zone?
There's an air exchanger in here, isn't it, already?
Not that I know of.
The new part of the building, maybe, I suppose, it would be the new part.
Probably in the new.
Yeah, but this part doesn't.
I remember him talking about issues with it, I think, or is it maybe the air conditioning?
Could be used as a water cooler,
Because there's no forced air in this room, is there?
just that blower right there.
Just recirculates the air in the room, it's just got
Oh,
a fan in it.
So it's nothing coming
Just
from
radiated
outside
heat,
or,
radiated
no
heat.
fresh air.
Yeah, no pressure.
But, you know, when COVID was going on, they say you gotta exchange the air from outside. Of course, you lose some of your heat, your BTU.
I've never had a house before that had an actual true
exchange.
exchange, and it's amazing. All of my other houses were, whatever.
Old air,
Mm-hmm. Pretty
vent
cool.
through the door when you walk out.
That's why you open all the windows.
This is
Every
pretty
now and
cool.
Is there less dust? That's,
There's way less dust, and it just always feels like fresh, One of my houses, if I cooked, you could, like, all the cooking smells were like in a bedroom. I was like, how did that happen, It's worth its weight in gold.
My issue was before, though, if I had an air exchange and I had a fresh stirring of the hog pit,
Oh,
Oh,
and then you got that
I
too?
kind of questioned whether that was gonna work or not. Does it have a deodorizer?
I think there's all sorts of stuff you can add to it.
Oh, yeah. Is that all our discussion on this then for
I
now?
think that's,
so did you decide to give the rest to Scott, or are you holding off on that?
Do I get a firm no, or maybe, because a maybe, I guess I'll take.
I'm thinking maybe, but I'd like to see if
I'm
anything else
thinking I
comes.
support your project, whether it's through ARPA or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if the whole dollar amount is what I'd be supporting.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even a part certainly would be helpful.
I hate to use all the fund balance to do a project like that, but it is a 20-year turnover. Try to replace a building every 20 years type of thing in the budget.
I mean, yeah,
How much do you have available, Scott?
what?
You said a reserve, or what did you say, a fund was building
Our
up?
fund balance is, something we can budget and burn down our fund balance next year. And we had 2.4 million in there this year. But we are over budgeted this year by about 300,000, and next year I'm planning to over budget by about 700. So, it isn't like it's just sitting there doing nothing. We have plans for it.
And if you have a big winter, you want to make sure you have a fund balance to accommodate.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've just been really good shape last couple of years because we budget for a tough snow every year, and we just haven't had
So you
one.
can carry some of that over then.
Secondary road fund, yeah, it's a separate account. Yeah. So it sounds like a lot, but It just doesn't go very far for the kind of projects we do.
I know they're talking tough winter, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think we can really allocate much more without knowing where we're gonna end up with the nature center.
Mhm.
Yeah, is it a thing where you could do like a sort of allocation if,
Contingent.
yeah, you know, if he's successful with all or part, you know, part of it, then that gets allocated to something else. Certainly would find value in that for my project and
And we don't know where
determining the
we're at
timeline.
on, we don't know where we're gonna be on the public health yet either.
Yeah,
What are you kind of shooting for?
500,
500?
no, 800 there, 800 there.
So how much per square foot is that? I can just,
Well, if it's 3,000.
Depends on if we go one way or the other,
Yeah.
that's the.
well, let's just say you went the cheapest route. So 800,000, okay.
His initial talkings to us, you don't have enough money to cover it.
$266 a square foot.
but we have an existing building.
No, but.
No, I'm just talking about the
the
new
additional.
I'm just thinking square
Oh.
footage. I'm just thinking of like our building per square foot, how it,
What is yours end up?
well, I'm just gonna. About $30 more than that, about $299. It was about just under 300.
I like the idea that you're looking at the SIPS panels. I've been very satisfied.
Yeah, we looked at that after the first bid came in high, but we still had the post and beam in the building. We took that out. And if we would have started with SIP, we probably would have maybe ended up a little different. I mean, maybe we could have got it built,
Yeah.
but hard to say.
Originally, I wanted way back was post and beam as well.
Yeah.
It's just,
And see, when we were talking post and beam, it was about $165 a square foot. Lyon County did one about that, and a bigger building, but that was pre-COVID. So then, yeah.
So you're thinking you'll know in another year more about what,
Oh, yeah, I mean, our building's supposed to be done by the end of next year, that's the plan.
yeah.
So we'll know, once we get into, we get, actively going back at fundraising and
It's easier to fundraise when the building's going up.
well, that's what we'd like to, if they could start this fall, that would help. Get a lot.
you want something to that? Scott's just bursting, wants to say something.
No, if we know there's a commitment, then that when we get started right away, and that's
Well, I think
exciting.
that there could be a commitment on it, part of it using for your HVAC system, or that would go in there or something,
yeah.
Well, that's gonna be a pretty significant amount,
You
we found out.
But you don't,
ours wouldn't be probably like your building.
you don't air condition it, do you? Just the
No.
office?
Not even. Right now, it's just radiant heat in the ceiling. I mean,
That would
there's
make it
nothing to it. It's not really, I wouldn't call it adequate.
Would you do in-floor heat?
I think we'll
The
do
new building?
radiant heat in the ceiling again, and we maybe could
Is
reuse
that
what we
a-
have in there because it's brand new.
Is that using electricity? Radiant,
What does that?
I mean, normally it's,
A lot of our
Gas.
LP
Yeah,
oh, it is.
or natural gas.
yeah, it has electric component, but not the gas. I don't think that,
So if you tore that down, would you get the doors and say that radiant system, or would the contractor get that?
you could write it up either way. I mean, the heating system, we reasonably think we could reuse. We would take it out ourselves and just leave it out of the bid for the building, put it up.
So are you talking about replacing with potentially replacing both buildings then with the,
No.
just the old one.
Just the old one, so we'll still have two buildings.
On the new building, I assume you would want some kind of an air exchanger there for like when you run things in, that it,
That's what I would like. I haven't found anybody with the expertise to tell me what that looks like yet.
I know years ago when we built that, would be the International Harvester and John Deere buildings there, we had put in a system there that, you know, when we ran, because you're running equipment inside trying to get, you know.
Yeah.
And we could lower the things from the ceiling and you put it right over the exhaust stack, and it would suck it all out, and
Sure.
throw it outside, but.
So like a hood over it then?
It's got
It's
to-
it's got a
Full
thing,
county
yeah,
engineer?
it just goes over the exhaust
Turned
stack.
over
Or
recently.
when you get it down
I-
low
I'm
enough,
just
put
down
it
to
on
their
something
conservation
underneath,
maintenance building. I mean, it would.
Yeah, with the trucks down
anybody
there,
do
it's
I
like,
mean, it's just-
Yeah.
Yeah, but when
And
you're
they-
driving
they've
trucks in
got
and
a-
out, you can't stop.
they've got
trucks
a,
go up, right?
What's that? Oh, the.
Truck
no.
stacks go up, don't they?
Well,
tax,
most
bond,
stacks go up,
bond,
but some trucks anymore
$60,
just have it
$70
underneath.
bonds. So they're just going.
Do your
But
trucks,
it's-
Your exhaust and your trucks go up?
do they have stacks or do they go underneath? You can get them either
Up.
way nowadays.
I think they're all up. Right in the cab.
You got stacks on the passenger side.
So if you're running it for some reason, like you're working on air conditioning or something, then you could have something you could lower over the stack then.
I suppose. This is a little outside of my expertise to find out. But we haven't really met as a group, with our guys to scope this out or anything yet.
I mean, driving in and out, there's just not much you can do except for exchange the air.
Yeah,
for
other
some
than-
reason.
Yeah, other than clean it up when you leave, you know.
But nowadays, they don't smoke like they used to either, so.
For safety reasons, you probably better have something.
Yeah, right now, you know, like the baseboard heaters in the offices, you know, they got like black wall above them because, you know, it's just burning particulates in the air and that just kind of makes me cringe a little bit. Because, you know, especially the offices in the back, that definitely never gets any fresh air.
All right, so is there anything else on the American Rescue Plan that we need to talk about? And do we need to plan another time to actually meet on any of this stuff? Or is it just gonna be as things come
I
up?
think the particulars of the grant process is probably just the board determining that.
Mhm.
But I don't know if we're gonna be ready to do much more unless something,
So is there a motion for those things, or did you,
I'll make the motion for those two.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Together,
Motion passed.
better ask for opposed,
All opposed?
because that was part of the committee, right, or not?
We just make recommendations, right?
yeah, we just make recommendations.
We did, this was board action then.
All right, we're done with our meeting. Meeting adjourned.